Hi, welcome to Force Trek. I'm Dade and I'm being forced to watch Star Trek.
And I'm Mars, and I'm being forced to make a podcast.
This episode, we're going to be talking about episode 9, Hide and Q.
Yes.
Man, we really got to fix the numbering thing by the time we get to season 2.
I think by the time we get to season 2, we should just keep going. Our number will go up, but then we'll just put the episode title in. I think that works.
That's true. Well, I keep thinking of trying to think of what it is called on the wikis and TV trope stuffs.
Maybe
it's so hard to keep up.
We could do. I mean, I would love to do that, like episode 102, episode 101.
Episode 101. We'll just try and fix it around season 2 if we can.
You
We'll
okay?
see.
It's evolving. We're evolving.
We're like a habitat of rats, constantly evolving.
We're a room that you locked, and then you open it again. There's a bunch of fungus and rats and plants,
Mushrooms.
Yeah, we're an enclosed ecosystem.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, not at all. But let's talk about this episode.
This is an episode. I can tell you that.
Yeah, Hide and Q. Do you remember this episode at all? We watched this
a
couple of days ago, to be fair.
This one's actually memorable because Q is in it, and that's always a great start. Q is one of the best characters. I was so excited for this episode because I loved him in the first one, and which is surprising because the first episode is so boring, and Q is such a highlight of it that I was so excited to see him in an episode where the pacing wasn't boring. Definitely delivers. I'll give it. You want me to give the explanation of the episode?
Yeah.
All right. I'll try to see how much of this I can remember. So the Starfleet is going somewhere, or the Enterprise is going somewhere, and they got to get there quick to help the people. I think that it's 3 days or somewhere. It's 3 hours. They're they have to be there quick, but it gets paused. It's paused by Q, and Q's like, "What's up, bitches? Y'all want to play?" And no, we got to be somewhere. And he's like, "Oh, well, too bad." And then he sends them to a planet, a green planet.
Yeah, he sends them to a green screen planet.
Green screen planet, where everyone but Picard goes. And then he's dressed up like Napoleon. And he's like, "You guys have to play my game." And it's not fair because that's such a human concept.
Because I'm unfair. Bleh.
I'm unfair. I'm cute. And they do a bunch of weird shit on the planet. They run around and fight these pig soldiers. And while that's happening, Q is on the Enterprise, waxing philosophy with Picard. There's sexual tension happening while they read off William Shakespeare poems.
They have some of the sexiest Shakespeare reading of all time.
And meanwhile, while that's happening, Yars is in a penalty zone where she can die at any moment if people fuck up. But then
but her penalty zone is just standing on the bridge.
Just her normal every day. And then Q goes back to the planet, and this whole episode he's been talking up Riker, being like, "Oh, Riker, I'm the most interested in you right now. You're very interesting." And Riker's trying to play an intellectual battle with him, the battle of minds. And eventually he tells Riker, "I want you to become like me," and gives him his god powers, his god Q powers. And Riker can now do everything that the Q can. And after a bunch of battling and shit, where Wesley fucking dies, and same with I think it's Worf, right? Worf is also the one who gets killed.
Yeah, Worf gets killed as well.
Yeah, after they die, then Riker's like, no, and brings him back to life, and then sends everyone back to the ship. And everyone's back alive, but Picard's all pissed because he's like, "You mustn't use that power. You must promise me this." And like, okay, yeah, I won't use it. You're right, boss. But he's been acting weird, Riker. He's been a weirdo this whole time. And they get to the planet that they're trying to help because Q's been gone. And there's a fucking dead girl in a pile of rocks. And they're like, well, can't you do anything, Riker? You have the Q powers. And Riker's like, I mustn't. I made a promise. And then they get back to the Enterprise, and everyone's bummed. And Riker's like, why can't I use these powers? To like Picard and shit, and he's all pissed about it. And then Q shows up, and he's like, let him use the powers, please. He wants the powers. And then Riker's like, watch, I can give you guys gifts. And he pops up a bunch of random shit for each of the people, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's very funny.
His mildly offensive gifts.
Mildly offensive gifts, which everyone declines and is like, no, we're good. And then eventually Q takes back his powers and he's being attacked or something and he has to leave. And so he pieces the fuck out and then everything goes back to normal and they go on with their day.
That's a pretty good surmise of this episode. It's so dense. That's pretty efficient what you got done. Because I was looking through my notes while you were talking about this.
I had to like, cut out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Talking.
There's a lot in this episode. I'm kind of excited to talk about it now.
There's a lot of little things. That's just a good overview for the people to kind of get an idea of what we're working with here.
Yeah. We're gonna. That was the groundwork. Now I really want to get into the nitty gritty of everything in this episode.
Can we talk about the notes? I don't want to talk about the notes.
Can we talk about the notes? I want to talk about the notes.
All right. What's the first note here?
So big note. This is a big note for the episode. Counselor Troy is not here for this whole episode.
Oh yeah, you're right. Deanna, for people who don't know her as Counselor Troy.
Yeah,
she's gone.
She is gone for this whole episode. She is on a conference on DEYD'S right now.
She's having a grand old time.
Yeah, she's back on her home planet. She's doing her thing, which means we don't have a mind reader this episode. Oh no! What are we gonna do?
Oh no! Oh, how are we ever gonna get through this? Now, can we talk about that for a second? Do we think it's just because they really realized they have nothing for this episode for her, so they just didn't want to like pay her for this episode? Or do we think that there's a plot hole thing and they had to add this? Like if they had her there, she would mess up the plot with her mind reading somehow.
You know, it's interesting because I actually kind of know the answer.
Okay.
It's so the next episode is about her and specifically has to do with her visit home. So I don't know if they were being, because I was going to say like, oh no, it's definitely like they're setting up the next episode, but it may just literally be either there was a big plot hole, but it was convenient to have her leave for this episode in particular, because they could just put these in any order and just film a scene where she leaves, I guess. But yeah, I think that's probably a little bit of A, a little bit of B, honestly, where they were just like, I mean, maybe if she reads somebody's mind, she can. Oh, you know what it is? She could have used her mind powers to calm Riker down, or at least
that's
like,
what I was thinking. Because
nice
I was like, wouldn't that be an interesting plot point of like he's become a crazy god and she's there witnessing this?
That would make a lot of sense. Because then there would be like a little emotional thing.
Yeah, I feel like it would make it a little bit more emotional, you know? Having Deanna there, but she's busy.
She's got to go home.
She's got to go read minds with her friends.
She's got to clean out her mom's cabinets and go into the attic and get all the stuff down for Christmas. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, her mom can't do it all by herself. That's a lot of stuff.
She's fragile. Oh God, I wanted to make a reference about her mom because she's a character in the show, but I can't because you wouldn't get it, and it wouldn't be funny to anyone who's listening because they also wouldn't probably get it yet.
All right, let's veto it, everyone.
This one's going.
It's a veto.
It's a veto. Mars can't make the fun reference.
What's next on the list?
Let's see. Let me see. I'm gonna skip over all the boring stuff. Picard gets really angry and says, "God damn it, Q!" when Q stops the ship. I thought that was really funny.
I
Um,
love when Picard and Q talk because Picard gets so mad at Q.
yeah,
Like time has stopped. To be fair, Picard doesn't really know that,
no.
but Picard is pissed. He's like, "We gotta get there. You're stopping me from helping my people." And Q just does not give a shit. He's like, "Oh, what's it fucking matter? You guys are always dying.
Yeah.
What's a more that a couple more of you die?"
Well, that's what's so good about it too is like Hugh is like Picard doesn't he yells at people, but he doesn't yell at anybody like that. It really feels like Q gets under Picard's skin in such a specific manner that like it just sets him off. Where he just like he says like he might as well just say like fuck you Q, fuck, god damn it,
Fuck you, Q. I fucking hate you.
son of a bitch.
But I do think so. In the previous episode, I talked about a little bit
Hmm.
the reason why I like Star Trek, right? The thing that I'm liking about it is the fact that it plays with different characters like morals and stuff,
Hmm.
and like the different morals of the aliens versus the crew versus the Federation. And this is why I love Q as a character because he's directly challenging that of the human race in Picard and trying to like make them crack and seeing like how deep is their morals. Would they bend for power?
Hmm.
Are they like truly ready to like step up, or will they like succumb to greed and all that? But Q is like just kind of fucking with them too, which is the funny part.
Yeah, like it kind
Like
of
he is
makes
testing them legitimately, but he's being an asshole about it.
well, it makes me wonder like are there other Q around the galaxy doing the same thing, but they're like more responsible about it? They're like testing other species, but Q is just kind of like
Or are they all like this? Are they all like jokesters?
they're all pranksters. I mean, I guess omnipotence would might push you to be like an absurdist weirdo.
Yeah, I can see it. To be fair, he does say that like he like being fair is a human construct and stuff compared to like other species. So it would kind of make sense that his kind is more like just having fun with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty interesting. I like Q as an opposing figure in the next generation because I feel like he challenges their morals pretty good.
And I also think he does it in such a way where it's like this like he's putting his finger on I know he said it wasn't fair, but like it's really fun watching him like he's as if he's written as somebody who doesn't like the show.
I would agree.
And I think that it kind of is like I feel like maybe Hyde and Q might be the best episode to show somebody from the first season to get them into the show because it's like anybody who like has any concept of Star Trek would immediately like have it poked fun at by Q.
Yeah, that's what I really like about Q is the fact they kind of calls them out on all their bullshit of like, oh, you think you guys are so like nice and cool because you're so advanced and you don't have fights, but if we're up to you, you would probably like be just as bad as you were years ago and shit. The card's
Yeah,
like all about like trying to show no humanity has changed. We can become better.
which I like too because it's kind of this interesting where like Picard thinks he's very like he thinks very high of humans, and Q is obviously
Mhm.
like you guys are ridiculous, but it's that cool like it's very interesting when it's like you get to see Picard kind of be right sometimes because it's
Well,
there's
that's the thing.
oh no go
Sorry, continue. Well, I thought of a huge thing about that is that Star Trek really wants you to believe Picard
Mhm.
that he like humanity has changed for the better because that's what Star Trek is about. Is like humanity has evolved. There's no more need for conflict. We're a non-conflict like species stuff, and we just want to observe now. But Q is like, nah, dog. I bet you I can make you like fucking lose it. Like you guys are easy to fuck with.
And then
So I kind of like that the show like is trying to show like that Picard's right, that humanity can change for the better. It's very optimist tone.
yeah well especially you see in this episode too like how Picard kind of infects other people with his like noble idea of humanity. Like Riker kind of a few times in this episode gets to kind of be like, well, Q, you know, if Riker or if Picard said that I'm, what the fuck is it? There's a point where like Riker says something to Q, and he's like revealing some sort of information. I forget what the fuck it is. Q is like complaining about Picard, I think is what it is. Q is complaining about Picard, and you know what? This is nothing. I literally can't remember this exact moment. It's just Riker sucks Picard's dick again. That's what happens. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's another one of those moments. Everybody thinks Picard is the coolest person ever. I think it also in this episode, Data notices something as Shakespeare or uses Shakespeare. Or no, he says this is the captain's favorite book. Or to quote the captain's favorite book.
William Shakespeare. Which is so funny because it's like, because they're not even talking about Picard in that moment. They're just saying, they're talking about William Shakespeare, and he mentions it like, this is the captain's favorite book.
This is the captain's favorite book.
It's like, okay, cool. Good for the captain.
I'm also going to bring us back on track a little bit with the notes. Something really fun that we can just come back to for this episode. Something Worf has tried to do a bunch already is get into fights and like kill people. It's his favorite thing to do, but he never gets the chance. And multiple times in this episode, he's presented with a real opportunity to just fight. And he has so much fun in this episode. Like, the first time it happens is when Q appears on the bridge, and he does this very funny little leap over the wood thing that he stands behind, the like barrier thing. And he does a little hop, and then he points his little phaser at Q like it's gonna do anything. So I don't know.
We replayed that a couple times.
Yeah, it was really funny.
That was hilarious.
And then I think Q is like he kind of finds that kind of funny, and then he's like talking about like how he's basically a god, and he shows off all of his different forms. Or one of them,
at one point he's like a ring with 3 snakes.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll present myself as something more comfortable for you guys.
Yeah, so he chooses a floating bubble with like 6 lights and then 3 cobra heads coming out of the bubble.
No, that's what he is originally before he changes into a human.
Oh, is that what he shows up as?
That's what he shows up as. He's like, what? Are you not used to this? I'll do something that's more familiar with you, and then becomes a human.
That's right. God, Q is so fucksworthy. Is that a word?
He's so hilarious. Like, I like to imagine that's not even the Q's like normal form. You just pick that to fuck with them to make them think that that's what they look like.
I just like, it makes me wonder, like, it seems kind of godlike, and then there's just 3 cobras.
To add like a mystical factor, like, why are there 3 cobras?
Yeah, maybe he's like, oh, well, I need them to know I'm fucking with them. How are they going to know it's me?
Or maybe he thinks that humans are so dumb they would believe this is his original form.
Oh yeah, and then like also 2 seconds after that, like everyone's like, Q, please, people are dying on a colony. There was a collapse. Like, they're suffering. We need to like go help them. And Q just goes, your people are always suffering and dying.
Yeah.
Knowing full well the time has paused and everybody's fine. But I love that he's just like...
He doesn't mention it, though. He's just like, oh, you guys are always fucking dying. Who cares? But he feels bad enough to pause it.
And then also, 2 seconds after that, he says the funniest burn to Worf, where he goes, Commander Worf, how is you're a macro head with a micro brain. He like laughs, and nobody else gets it really. He's like,
it's like such like a childish thing. Like, haha, you're dumb. Is essentially what it boiled down to.
I don't know. Q has some pretty good one-liners in this episode, honestly.
Oh yeah, they're hilarious.
He teleports them down to the planet. Let's see. Oh yeah, Picard gets stuck on the bridge. This is just a funny moment. Picard like walks around and just like he's like trying to use the doors, but nothing's working. He's trying to call the computer, nothing working, and he's basically just like he just has to sit on the bridge and wait for everyone to get back.
What do you think he did?
Well, he can't use the computer to like play a game or something, so maybe he
can't play Minesweeper.
He's like drawing pictures in the carpet. He's like kind of dragging his feet.
He's like lying back on the ground, like staring up at the ceiling.
He's playing tic-tac-toe with himself.
I would love to talk about the planet stuff, because I thought that was kind of funny with So first off, when they like drop down there, I can't remember if they're scattered about or if they're all next to each other. I think they're all next to each other. And Q is there dressed as Napoleon, like a French imperial from the, what was it, 1700s or 1800s or something.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there in a like tent, in a nice tent, drinking lemonade. He offers Riker lemonade to come sit down and have lemonade with him, because he's gassing up Riker, trying to like make him feel important. Like, oh, come hang with me, Riker. We have important things to talk about. What's your drink of choice? Actually, I don't know if he asks him or if he just pops lemonade and Riker's like, I'm okay with that. I'll take it.
I think what it is like Riker says it's like a lemonade from his hometown or something. It's like specific.
That would make sense.
I also love in that moment when he spawns drinks in everyone's hands. It's like all these different drinks, and Worf immediately just looks Q in the eye cold and pours the drink out. And Q just goes like, Klingon code, drink not with one's enemy. And just like, it's just a weird moment where Worf's like, no, fuck you, I want to fight.
It's so funny because like Q was expecting it, but like Worf was like, got his ass. I do kind of like, I wish that Worf afterwards, like, oh shit, I fell right into his hands. I did exactly what you thought I was going to do.
Which
I wish he asked for seconds. Like, actually, I'll take some.
Wait, was that blood wine?
The blood wine. I love blood wine.
I read above. They can't replicate it. Fuck.
Fuck. Why'd I do that?
Also, immediately after this little conversation between like Q and Q's like, I'm gonna have this game and it's gonna be very unfair. Fuck you.
Wait. Hold on. Can I mention one thing before we
go for it.
Get there? So it's the whole crew, besides Deanna, and for some fucking reason, Q also brings Wesley.
Yeah, that's right.
He's never met Wesley. He doesn't know about Wesley. No one's mentioned him. He wasn't there on the bridge when he teleported everyone. Wesley's just there.
Yeah, he was just like, and this boy.
And I'll bring this kid. They seem to like him or something.
He's getting everybody's coordinates punched in, and he just sees Wesley's are up, and he's just like, why not? Wesley.
I think Wesley was even like, I was in the middle of school or something when he got there.
That's right. Yeah, Wesley's like, I was just in class. What's happening?
Where are we? What's going on? Like, everyone's still there, and Wesley just got teleported out of class.
Also, like, imagine if you were in class and just a bright light flashed and a student was just gone.
Another reason why I don't think there should be civilians on the Enterprise.
Honestly, there are plenty of episodes that back you up, especially the ones where like, oh, the whole ship has been compromised. Everything's falling apart. We're all freezing to death or whatever is happening this week.
It's been like every episode. There's been some sort of danger for the Enterprise.
I like to think that like somewhere on the ship there's like a couple that's like, Daniel, I can't do this anymore. Okay, the captain's been possessed twice this month. Okay,
Babe, it's not that bad. Okay, you know, we're getting to see a lot of new places.
This is the crown jewel of the Federation. You know, like of Starfleet. Like, you know, this is a big thing for me.
Completely safe. There's no way we can get hurt.
Their son is like,
what's that? Their top security officer has been taken.
Oh, what's that? A random child was taken out of class via teleportation. Well, at least Junior's having fun, and then the doors open, and Junior's like levitating with like his eyes are like glowing. Mother, father.
Third eye open.
Turns his mom into like a monkey.
That could be an episode. That could be an Orville episode. I could write for Orville.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
I just know I can.
Okay, well, it's good to have faith in yourself. I appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
Yar is sent to the Shadow Zone pretty much 2 seconds after Q talks with everybody and tells everybody the rules.
That's true. That's true.
Because Yar,
like, almost immediately.
I think she just says like, I don't want to play this game, and then he's like, okay, and he just zaps her. She disappears.
And she, you know, like, I like how it's kind of played where everyone's like, oh no, where did she go? She must have been sent to some horrible place. And then it cuts back to Picard, and she just appears right behind him. and she's just standing there.
Yeah, and she's
I,
like,
I have a feeling if anyone breaks any more rules, I'll die.
because it's super ominous. He's like, Q on the planet. Q is like, she's been sent to a penalty box, and you're like, oh shit, was like an alternate dimension or something? Was like a coffin? Who knows? And then it's just she's standing on the bridge.
Back on the bridge, he's fucking with them, which is funny because you think this is going to be a big plot point of like, oh well, they have to like follow the rules, or Q will send someone in there and Yar will die. But no, Yar's just hanging out on the ship for like the rest of the episode. There's nothing more with that.
You know what's weird too about that particular thing where she gets sent to the bridge and all that is
What?
so she gets sent to the bridge and then she talks with Picard. I forget about what, but they just have like a little short conversation. But I have this in my notes because it was so bizarre at the time, and I really wish I wrote down the context. But I wrote, "Does Yar want to fuck Captain Picard?" She says, "Oh, if only you
Oh,
weren't the captain." At one point, do you remember the
did she say
context?
that?
Yeah, she goes, "Oh, if only you weren't the captain." And I don't remember the context of it, but it's like she like thinks she's
If
gonna
only
die.
you weren't the captain. That's so weird because I saw it more as like a like I don't know, like he was being like a comforting father. He seemed more like a. It would make more sense for him to be like a dad figure to her, but I do remember the context. She's very scared about dying in
Yeah.
this scenario, and Picard like comforts her and like hugs her, and and I remember you talked about how horny this seemed, and I was like, "This is this horny? Is this trying to be horny? This feels so weird."
Well, it's like I didn't think it was until she says because I wrote it
If
fucking
only you
down.
weren't the captain.
If only you weren't the captain. What else could that mean? If only
Dude,
you were my
Yara's just freaking
grandpa.
horn dog.
Only you were my peepaw.
We were my people. Yeah, it doesn't make sense in that context, so she must want to fuck him. But I didn't hear that line, so I just thought you were like, you read the situation differently than I.
It's so weird. I don't know why they keep doing that to her character. They're just like, she wants to fuck everybody when she thinks she's about to die. Um,
You know, fair enough, Yar.
this is just a weird little thing that happens. And then Worf, we cut back to the planet, and Worf is like scouting for the team, and he's so
Yeah,
stoked.
no one else is helping. They're all just sitting around talking and shit, and Warp is the only one. Like, by the way, the set for this is flat rocks with
Yeah.
some slightly bigger rocks, and the pigs are just like walking around in circles, like randomly going places, and Worf is hiding behind like a slightly big rock, wide-eyed staring at them.
Yeah, because there's these like and also I don't know if we mentioned this, but all these pig monsters that Q has spawned to fuck with them are all dressed like French soldiers, and so Worf is kind of like it's such a weird image of Worf hiding behind a rock, staring at a bunch of like French soldier aliens, all wide-eyed like. Ugh.
Especially because he's, at least from our view, it does not look like he's hiding that well. He's just like kind of next to a rock, not really behind it or peeking over. He's just next to a rock, staring at them.
And then like a 10-year-old, as soon as he has all the information he needs, he just kind of I don't know how to put it. He skitters away. He darts in the other direction back to his team because I thought he was gonna fight.
Yeah, me too. I guess
Um,
he was. Did he even learn anything from that? Like, oh, they walk around in a certain pattern or something, or
Nothing. I think all he learned was that they have muskets. I think that was his big takeaway.
thank you, Worf. And then
Uh,
they don't even actually shoot bullets; they shoot like lasers
yeah, they're laser muskets.
that like kill people. They and then let's start moving across because I want to start getting into the Riker stuff.
Yeah,
Unless
let's.
there's more
I'll
interesting things.
let me cross some more of this stuff off. We got the little Shakespeare off between Picard and Q, which I loved a lot. I thought that was fucking hilarious. Where I actually I remembered a lot of this because a long time ago I made like a little remix song with that in it. This little because they have like a little Shakespeare quote off that's got like kind of a weird amount of tension between them. And I recut it to make it a lot more gay using other quotes from other episodes. I'll have to find that somewhere. But just I couldn't stop thinking about this whole episode. Was that little scene where they're just like Picard's like how he's talking about how Shakespeare said this ironically, but this is what he believes about humanity. He's like how noble in reason and all these how amazing humanity is, and he's talking it up, and like we're just so intelligent like a god. And then Q just stops him and goes, "You don't really see your species that way, do you?" It's so devastating.
You guys, that's cringe.
Right? You're capping.
You capping dead ass? You're not being for real right now.
Like if you're lying, now's the time to say so.
Yeah, it's a weird scene where they just quote Shakespeare at each other, which I think is trying to make them look intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, it really shows that the people who wrote this were born in like the 30s and 40s.
For real, like the idea of, oh, you're smart these days if you know Shakespeare.
Yeah, I also have relevant Shakespeare is like 300, 200 years in the future. Or
They're
500.
still quoting him.
It's 500 years in the future.
Yeah, like no one else has come along and made anything more interesting than Shakespeare.
Not so this
It would be pretty funny if they're like, to quote Beelzethor
to
from
quote
2038. The Balmalethute, and it's like 2021 is when Bartholomew lived.
Oh, I would love if they just like picked a poet from Earth's history that isn't born yet, and we all just have to. Oh yeah, like
Have to accept it.
John Spinnock, the half Klingon, half human poet. We all know him.
Classic. And then they just started saying like lines that they made up, that the writers made up about like what he would say. I think it would be especially funny. I get why they picked Shakespeare because people know Shakespeare, I guess.
Okay, we'll keep moving to the Riker Q stuff. Oh, we get a fun, weird moment. I forget what the context is, so if you remember, let me know. But there's a moment where Q, like, it's Data looking off in the distance, and then somebody says something to him, and then he turns around, and it's Q as Data. So it's him in the makeup with like the pale skin and the neon yellow eyes.
I couldn't tell you if I tried.
It's
I
so
legit
weird.
don't remember. Is this before or after This is before Wesley gets stabbed, right?
It's
Yeah.
literally right before it.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember at all. But yeah, he does dress up as the Data, and it looks very funny.
Yeah, and then eventually Riker is given or no. What? So then like I think the pigmen ambush them and just murder Wesley, like stab him in the back.
Now, can we say ambush? Because it's not like this was a very out of nowhere move. They just walked towards them and they couldn't go anywhere. They just didn't realize it quick enough. They're like, oh shit, they're here. But it's like they're very obviously in the background.
Well, we gotta go, guys. And they're still just standing there and they're slowly walking up.
And they and then got to them and they're like, oh shit, I guess we have to fight them. And then like Worf runs at them, and then actually I think it's Wesley who goes up to them first. And he's like, oh my god, is that a musket or something? Or that's so cool. And then immediately one of them stabs him in the back, like with I forget what it's called, but the sharp part out of a musket just stabs him in the back through the chest. Yeah. Yeah, and it was oh fuck, and it like drops.
It's pretty brutal too. They don't hide it. They do show him getting a spike right through his chest, and you can see like the blood and everything. It's pretty brutal, honestly.
Yeah, probably no. I don't think it was brutal for the time wars.
Probably.
I mean, for Star Trek standards, you know.
Yeah, for Star Trek standards, that's pretty brutal.
And they don't show a lot of. They don't show a lot of blood and brutal fights in the show. So for that was like out of nowhere. And then like Worf is pissed, so he starts running at them. Then he also gets the act. I don't remember if he gets hit by a laser or also a bayonet.
Yeah, people are dropping left and right. It's rough. And
at this point, Riker was given the powers, and Q was like, "Oh, test it out if you want, or something."
Q is like a video game character with like a big booming voice, and he goes, because he's like projecting to Riker, and he goes, "Use your power," and then Riker puts his hand out.
Tutorial: if you press the left bumper, you can bring back your teammates.
Flex your left hand to revive teammates.
press right to get sent back to the ship.
Yeah, so he uses. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, because Q is like trying to convince Riker. He's like, you humans, you have this hunger. We want to bring your like drive, and we want to care about stuff again. So join the Q. And then Riker just goes like, nah, fuck you, and he teleports everyone back to the ship.
Yeah, and which is very funny because everyone's fine once they're back on the ship, but I'm assuming Wesley died for a little bit.
Yeah. Did Wesley go to heaven? And he just had to he just has to deal with that now with the knowledge of what heaven was like.
He's very calm about it when he's back on too. Like that, wouldn't that be fucking traumatic? Like, oh my god, I died. I literally died out there.
Yeah, you know what?
I don't want to join the Starfleet. This is so scary.
You're right. He doesn't even react to the fact that he was dead.
He was very calm about it. He's just back and he's sitting there like, oh, okay, well, we're back now.
And his mom.
He got stabbed to death.
Big Picard's like, don't tell your mom. Please don't tell your mom. You just died.
She'll be so mad.
Remember the last time this almost happened? Yeah, we can't have this happening. Sorry.
Yeah, but it legit happened. You did die.
Yeah, Wesley got stabbed all the way. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, hold on. So here's what happens. Okay, what's going on? Oh, okay.
We got a video or something right now.
Yeah, I'm watching a recap. No, actually, I'm reading my notes. We got our series of events up back to kind of in a backwards order. So Q offers, because they're all getting attacked, right? Worf is fighting the pigmen. Then Q offers Riker the powers, and Riker says, "No, thank you to your powers, Q." And then Q says, "Okay," and he teleports everybody, including Wesley, who wasn't there originally, to the planet. And then Wesley, he's like, "I was in school," and then Q also gets rid of all of their weapons, and then Worf gets to fight, and he's like super excited, and then he gets stabbed, and then Wesley gets stabbed all the way through, and then Riker decides he's going to use his powers, and he stands like a genie, and he uses his powers to save everybody.
I mean, that's more or less the same what happened.
Yeah, I didn't want them,
different order.
I didn't want anyone to think that we didn't know what was happening. That's the correct order. Everything we just talked about were a little different.
Some nerd like, no, that wasn't the order. No, how could you not remember?
Listen, if you've seen these episodes a million times, can you imagine somebody going like, I think Wesley was there already for some reason? That's so stupid. And just be like, no, it was teleported. It was teleported.
Well, I mean, either way, he did get teleported, like we said. We said he got teleported to the planet.
Yeah, he got teleported one way or another.
We specifically mentioned that he wasn't there at all, and he gets randomly teleported there. So yeah. it all kind of adds up to the same equation.
Well,
let's get into the Riker stuff, because I find this so funny. And
yeah,
I find that because this is supposed to be the big centerpiece of the episode is Riker and his god powers. And I'm just going to start going through this. If you have some notes, you can stop me, let me know. But once they get back, Riker is like pretty much immediately told by Picard, like, you cannot use these powers. This is a test, and he's trying to get us. And Riker is already kind of starting to slip, in the sense that he's becoming kind of a weirdo.
Yeah, he's becoming
why not?
He's like becoming like arrogant and kind of childish.
Which I don't know if that's supposed to be like the Q is infecting him with that, or I'm not sure. Are they saying that Riker would legitimately just become like childish if he had god powers?
Because it's supposed to be like absolute power corrupts absolutely or whatever.
But Riker's like pretty morally set throughout the whole show up to this point. Like he doesn't seem like he could be persuaded easily.
Well, what? Because he kind of isn't. Because like remember, Picard's like, "Hey, don't do it," and he's like, "Okay." And
yeah, but he's still kind of being a little weird at this point.
Yeah, but then the thing that pushes him over, right, is he goes to that colony and a little girl dies.
And I want to talk about that.
Oh, you want to do it? Okay.
I'm leading up to this because
sorry.
I find this so interesting. They're already kind of showing that Riker's being a bit of a weirdo. This is what like tips him over.
Yeah.
Is the little girl dying. And then this is what pisses me off. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure people were there when Picard Was the whole crew there when Picard told him not to use the powers? I forget.
No, it was like in his back room.
Okay. Well, either way, I feel like the whole team should be pretty morally, advanced enough to be like, no, let's not use those powers because that's Q,
Oh
and
yeah,
Q's
that's
like
right.
bad. But no, they're immediately mad at him. They're like, you can't use your powers? What's the point? Why do you have them if you're not going to help this little girl? They're pissed at him.
Yeah, because they get to the planet and this little girl dies, and they're like, literally like, oh, if we were only here like an hour sooner, we could have saved her.
And like, you can't bring back time, or you can't bring her back to life. Wouldn't it be so easy as just waving your arm for you?
And it literally, it's like immediately Data is straight up just like, like Data just literally goes like, yeah, you could help that little girl theoretically, right? Like you have the power. Everyone's like, what the fuck, Data? Or at least
And
Picard is.
and here's what pisses me off is because later in the episode, everyone starts acting all hoity-toity when Riker starts using his powers and like, no, it's not right. I don't want you to use your powers. Then why the fuck were you telling him to use the powers on the planet? Here's what I think personally. I think that scene would have gone a little bit better had if like they found the body and stuff and like Q showed up and was like, if you use your powers, you can bring her back to life. That's an innocent life you could bring back. Like I think it would make more sense if it came from Q, like trying to tip him over and be like you're just gonna let innocent people of your species die because you feel too like high and mighty to use power that can help them.
It is kind of
And
weird.
having like the teammates be like, no, don't use your power, and like trying to persuade him over. But no, they're just fucking assholes.
Well, it's especially weird because it's Data. Data's the one doing it. The last person.
Well,
you
not
think
only
would do
him,
that.
but Beverly too. Beverly is like, you can't bring them back with your powers. It's like not just Data; it's multiple people telling him to do it.
Yeah, and then eventually, I think what actually makes him start using his powers? Do you remember?
I think when they get back, Riker's pretty mad about not being able to help, and Picard's like, it doesn't matter. This is not ours to use. And Riker starts getting really mad about the situation because he's like, what, you just don't like that? What? He starts calling him John Luke. He's like,
Yeah.
John Luke. And Picard is so mad by this, by him calling him Jean Luc. He looks like he wants to rip off Riker's fucking head. He's so mad. And Jean Luc, I think you're just jealous that I was chosen to be given the Q's power. And Riker starts becoming a huge bitch at this point. Again, what I'm curious about, is it the influence of the powers taking over him, or is this just a side effect thing? Is Riker Riker really become this weird and much of an asshole if he had powers?
Yeah, it's like and also does Picard or does Riker like have the same, because like the Q are omnipotent basically. Like they kind of just know they like they need to know like a math formula. They can just know it all of a sudden. Like does he have that? Is he just like answering questions to himself privately in his head, like at all times, and that's why he's so arrogant? Because that's the only thing I could think that would make you think you're like a genius and you know everything, is that you can just be like, what's their favorite thing? Wow, 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 and then just like make a bowl of pecans appear or whatever they're craving.
Yeah, they don't really explain it all that well, and that's kind of the thing that bugs me about this episode, is that it's a good idea, but I feel like they handle it kind of sloppily with the Riker part, where it's just like they had the idea, but they didn't really know how to actually work it. Because then Riker's just a big weirdo at this point.
Yeah, well, he literally, I think the reason he has everyone on the bridge too is because everyone's like weird around him, and he just is like, I know what to do. And he gets everyone together, and he's like, hey, everybody, I know everyone thinks I'm weird, but I'm not, I promise. And then,
Yeah, what a very normal thing to say.
yeah, but then he proceeds to make everything super weird.
He calls like Picard Jean Luc, and then I may not be remembering this right. Isn't he weird to like other people? He starts acting weird to the women or something.
I don't remember specifically, but
I
that
don't think
sounds correct.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. Just ignore that.
Um,
I don't totally remember it, but This part pisses me off. I did not like it.
Well, there because because then he's kind of accepting the fact that he might be like a Q with powers, and he's like, "Hey, you guys are just jealous that I have powers." And then Q appears as a monk as a bit. He shows up. Q appears dressed as a monk, completely as a bit. And,
Yeah, it's only for comedy.
yeah, because he goes, "Welcome, brother." He takes his hood off.
And he like tries like someone says something about him, and he's like holds up the cross.
Yeah, he holds up the
I forget what
cross,
he
really
says.
convicted.
And he's like pray them away or something. I don't know. He says some weird shit like that. It's pretty funny.
And then Picard, in response, points at him and goes, "Can't you see he is a flim-flam man?"
A flim-flam man.
And Worf just kind of turns to Data and goes, "Flim-flam?"
Flim-flam. Let's talk about the present scene with Riker.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's before this or after this, but
No, it's right after it, yeah.
And it's interesting. So Riker at this point is like, no, I think it's fine that I have these powers, and I'll show you why it's a good thing. And then he starts giving everyone like gifts. I think he starts with Wesley.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he starts with Wesley. He's like, Wesley, I know what you've always wanted, and then turns him into a man, a full-grown man, which is really funny that they think that they're like, oh, that's what this kid wants, to be a grown-up.
Yeah, like, it's like, I think Wesley just wants, like, to be taken seriously. I don't think he wants to be a grown-ass man.
Which is interesting about these scenes, because it's like, does Riker actually know what they secretly want, and this is it, but they're like denying it? Or is he just taking a stab at like what he thinks they want?
It really comes off like what Riker's idea of what he thinks his friends really want, because that's kind of the vibe of all of these gifts. Is it's just like, from Riker's perspective, what is the thing that person would want the most? And and most of the time it's really just something Riker might really want. Like,
Well, the thing that I find especially funny about Wesley is that Wesley's like thanks, but I'd rather like just wait for it or do it on my own. And that makes me think that or that it's true that Riker knows what they actually want, and that for some reason Wesley wants to become an adult like immediately or something.
so weird. And it's funny too, because his mom is like, Beverly is just like, what the fuck? What the
Like, this is
fuck did you
weird.
do?
It's such a weird scene, and also funny, as you've mentioned. Now that we know what Will Wheaton looks like as an adult, it's not very close.
Well, and then also just like, yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's just that they were like, oh yeah, he's obviously gonna grow up to be a broad-shouldered, giant-chinned, uh, Mega Chad sports player. I think that's what Riker imagines Wesley will become.
Which I think makes that even funnier, that this is all Riker's idea. Which makes the scene with Worf especially. I don't know if that's next. We can go out of order. I don't think it's super important what the gifts are in.
Yeah. What's the Worf thing is so funny, because Riker is like, I know what you want, Worf. It's written all over your face. Sex.
And spawns a Klingon woman.
Yeah.
And she's like immediately horny and like wants to fuck him and shit. And they do like a growl competition at each other. Like she's like on the ground, like growling, crawling towards him.
Yeah.
And Worf is like growling back, and then he's like, maybe once, but that's not me anymore.
I have no time for this in my life. I think he's what he like screams like an incel and like goes, "No, be gone, thought.
Be gone, woman." He's too high-brained for it now.
Yeah, he's evolved through Starfleet.
Exactly. He's not like those other stupid fucking Klingons.
Also, a small note as just a Star Trek fan with this scene. Interesting thing to note: she has like these sort of like plate armor things going down her forearm, or down from her shoulder to her forearm, and I immediately recognized those. She's actually wearing, like, someone took the Klingon officer uniforms from the movies and just rearrange them to be a different outfit. 'Cause those plates that are on her arm are actually meant to be on the back of your spine, and she has two of them. I
Oh.
just thought that was interesting. Like a little bit of costume design in the back where they're just like, "Fuck, we need a Klingon woman. What do Klingon women wear? I don't know. Here, give me those 3 costumes. I'll make a new one."
We'll make something new out of this.
It's a fun little thing.
It must have been a fun day dressing up the Klingon.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also, I think it's like the first time you see like a Klingon woman, or at least in
And
the
like the whole series.
well, since the redesign probably would. Well,
Oh,
yeah, no, I think since the redesign, probably true.
it's a pretty funny scene out of context because I also like to imagine, or I like to think, did this woman get teleported here,
Is she
or
a
was she just
fabrication?
created from thin air? Just like life was made in a second, and her whole life has been 3 seconds in wanting to fuck Worf, and then just immediately disappeared again after like Worf is like, "No, I'm good."
I think that's interesting because Riker kind of posits like, oh, you want to have like a Klingon woman or like have sex or something. But if you really think about it, it's like, well, what happens after that? Does she disappear? Like,
Did she just live her whole life as basically a sex slave to Worf?
what's like, I think in Riker's mind, if he was to do that, it would be like she's like a sex android, I would imagine, or like just like something that is like not actually alive. But then that's like still super weird and fucked up. I don't know. This is a weird concept if you like have to think about it for longer than 30 seconds.
Which is what makes me so uncomfortable about this episode is all the implications of these scenes that's happening, and it's just you think the show would like to explore that, but no, they just kind of gloss over it because to say that no, human good. We good.
Yeah. And then also,
Without like really exploring the weird implications.
I think the only time where it's like it's what everyone thinks Riker would do, but it's also like kind of fucked up if Riker does do it because he looks at Data, right, and he goes, he's like
Oh yeah.
and Data doesn't even let him say anything. He just goes,
Like
nope,
no.
don't. Like he gives him the eyes too. He's got like wide eyes and he's pointing at him and shit. He's like, I don't want you to make me a human. Don't fucking do it. And
Yeah.
that's when he also quotes to quote the captain's favorite book or whatever.
His favorite story. Yeah, it's pretty funny that like Riker was going to do it, and that's the thing though is Riker just an asshole if he had powers, or was he turned an asshole and he's like, I know what you want, Data. You want to become a human, huh?
But I guess maybe you could look at it from the lens of like this is like Starfleet's mentality, right? Being put through the lens of the Q, where it's like he thinks like, oh, everybody deserves to benefit from the advancements in our like everyone in the Federation specifically, not just in general, because the Prime Directive is a thing, but he's like everyone who has the ability to benefit from the Federation should, and like this is me giving back to my friends because my friends they have all these things that they want or can't have, and now I can finally provide them, and I can see that's where his head's at, but realistically, it's so shallow. All of them are so shallow.
I think honestly, Mars, I think you're overthinking it. I think legitimately the writers were probably like, wouldn't it be funny if we had a scene of Riker giving everyone weird gifts? and like, how can we get to a scene like that? Well, Riker has to be an asshole. So yeah, he gets his head gets bloated with all these powers, and it's like, is that what it is, or is he an asshole?
Well, maybe we're being
Nobody
unfair.
cares.
Maybe we're being unfair. How would you act if you had absolute powers? How do you think you would feel? Like, what would you do with power? You just have the Q, have their ability.
Well, knowing the Q and how much he's fucked with us, I probably would not use those powers. And I'm used to seeing people die all the time, so I would not be that affected by some little girl dying in a rock.
It's fair.
And for the power thing or like the gift thing, I wouldn't do that because like I know it'd be kind of fucked up.
I'm not asking would you do exactly what Riker did, but do you me personally?
What would I do with powers? Like
yeah,
just
yeah,
for
yeah.
funsies?
Like would it corrupt you? Like I immediately would
Would it
change my
corrupt me?
form. I would be, yeah, I would change my form. I wouldn't have to buy clothes anymore because I could just teleport clothes onto me.
Are we talking about like if I was walking down the street right now and Q showed up, or are we talking about if I was in Riker's position as a first officer and I've been working with Picard for a while now?
That's that's a good point because I'm thinking from the perspective of just if I got Q powers now, what would I do with them?
Right now?
Would it corrupt me?
I mean, that's a lot different. If my job was what Riker's was, then yeah, I would probably want to uphold the like morals and stuff and all the shit. But if right now, what I would do,
Yeah.
do I know Q is evil or weird?
Wait, what was your question?
Do I know Q is weird, or is this the first time I'm meeting him in this scenario you've made up?
Because I'm operating off of the knowledge of what I have of the Q. So let's say up until this point in Star Trek, this is you now, as you are right now. Q appears in your room and is like, "Hey, I just want to give you Q powers. See what happens." Would you take it?
No, I wouldn't use them. I don't think I would.
Really? You have nothing you'd want to use? Like, are you just worried you'd fuck it up?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It seems like Q is fucking with humans and like trying to get them to slip. So I would probably not want to fuck it up for humanity. I'd probably be like, I'm good. I'm pretty fine with just being me. It would be funny to be like, no. This would be really funny if I was like, no, I will not like succumb to your powers and stuff and like take them back. And like right as I'm saying that, like I just wave my hand behind my back just to solve world hunger, global warming.
Yeah.
Like we solve everything on the planet, and just like a couple of waves of my hands, I'm like, now take it back. And then once he takes it back and leaves, everything's just perfect in the world.
He's like, "Oh, that's disappointing." And then there's just like you walk outside and it's like, "Oh, gas is 10 cents today, everybody." Just,
No, it's free. It's free.
It's free.
We have great public transportation.
Yeah, you step out of your house, and they're down like 10 feet down the street from you is an amazing tram system.
There's greenery everywhere. There's no billboards of advertisements.
There's
like as Q is like flying out of the sky and looking down, he's like, I don't remember Earth looking so green.
Oh well.
Weird.
He's flying through the atmosphere. A lot of ozone. A lot more than I remember.
I thought this was broken.
I thought oh well.
That's probably what I would do.
I'd give myself big boobs. I think I'd give myself big boobs.
I'm glad to see where our minds are at.
I mean, I might help I should help the world, I guess. But I would probably get
big boobs first. Like,
big boobs first. Then
your scenario would be especially funny if you were doing the same thing I were, where you're like, no, I will not do it. I will not use your and like as you're saying this, your boobs are growing.
Yeah, that's you know what? That's what I do. I do the boobs last, so that we can get everything fixed. And then if you guys maybe I like go like, what's that behind you? And then and then he looks back and my boobs are bigger.
No, they've always been like that, Q.
It has been like that. Oh, okay. And there's like a wall of money behind me.
You're sitting on like you could imagine a perfect world where there's no money, but you're like, no, I'm just going to benefit solely me.
No, I'm not. I solved world hunger. I made everything walkable. I don't know. What if I still have to pay rent?
Well, if you live in a perfect world, wouldn't there be no money in currency?
That's true. Okay, so there's nothing but... What would be the new valuable thing?
Nothing. You're in a perfect world where people work together.
There's nothing behind me. It's terrifying.
Oh no, the capitalism has infected her brain. She literally can't imagine a world where there is no possessions.
Mars, I have a song for you. It's written by...
I think I like this one guy.
I'm not a monster.
Trying to say his message.
I wouldn't leave everyone to die. I'm just thinking like, what could I give myself also on top of that?
I don't know about you, Mars, but a perfect world where I don't have to worry about money is enough for me.
No, I know that's great. That's great.
And shit.
That's great. But like, what if I don't know? I made my hair red.
I had a bunch of money and boobs.
Okay, what if it's like I don't know? I give myself the ability to like change my hair color. I want like a superpower. That's what I'm saying. I want like a superpower out of this.
To change your hair color?
That's a superpower.
That's called hair dye.
Yeah, but then I don't have to pay for it. Well, there's no money.
There's no money. She just she's so trapped in her walls of capitalism.
Okay. All right.
She's
Let,
so
let me
buried.
let me think. I can come up. If I had Q powers, I would get myself the ability to
It's all about
shapeshift.
you, huh?
I'd give everybody the ability to shapeshift. Fine, fuck you.
Yeah, what's stopping you from giving everyone that power?
What if they use it for bad things?
But everyone's peaceful in this world.
It's true. You know, I'm realizing how selfish I sound.
That the first thing that you would get with God powers is give yourself boobs and money and not help the world.
Well, it would help the world. You make it sound like I'm never
You
gonna do
you
it.
don't mention it. You
I
immediately
did.
mention
I mentioned
food.
it every time. Listen, the
No,
boob.
you didn't. You mentioned it after I've made a point to mention it and then called you out for not mentioning it.
Oh, and this is what Q wants, Dade. This is exactly why Q came to both of us separately and asked us the same question.
I'm like Picard here. You immediately turned Riker.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Riker doesn't seem that crazy when you hear
Maybe
me getting
that's why this
powers.
episode. Maybe that's why this episode makes sense to you because you would do what Riker does,
I
and I
wouldn't
would
be.
do what Picard does.
I wouldn't be so tone deaf though. Okay, getting back on track. He literally goes like on Geordi, and he gives Geordi his sight back
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We
on the
forgot.
spot.
Yeah, and he's like, immediately. By the way, he immediately looks at Yars and is like, "You're even more beautiful than I imagined."
Oh, that's right. Because I have in my notes. I literally, as you were saying that, I was reading in my notes. Why is everyone horny for a Yar? What the fuck? I forgot. He takes his visor off after getting sight, and the first thing he does is look right at Yar.
Turns to Yar behind him.
Where did
Turns
that
to her to
come
look
from?
at her and like, "You're even more beautiful than I imagined."
What if he just looked at her and he went, "Ugh"? Like he was like, "Oh God, I thought you
That's
were."
what I was kind of hoping, like that he would like take it off and he would like look at people and be like, "Oh,
He looks at Worf. What the fuck?
oh my god,
Is that an
that's what it
alien?
looks like. Is that an alien? What the fuck? I thought we were all humans.
I had no idea.
Why is Data so pale?"
Yeah, I don't know why he hits on Yar. It's so bizarre.
Immediately, everyone's so fucking horny for Yara. I mean, I get it. She's very good looking, but is she like the epitome of all beauty in the future?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It's written by a bunch of old dudes. That's what it was.
Yeah. Oh, pretty lady. She must be the sexiest thing in the world.
Well, if I got eyesight back, I would immediately look at the hottest girl.
You know, yeah, maybe everyone's a little closer to me than you on the morality spectrum.
I just think it's so weird for a show that's like about morality and good people that they immediately turn so quickly. But yeah, and then they all are like each one of them goes through their line. So Wesley's like thanks, but I want to earn it on my own. And then Jordy's like, thank you, but I'm fine the way I am. I'm happy with my no eyesight and constant pain.
Yeah.
And
I would be like, well, can you get rid of the pain part?
yeah, I'm actually cool with losing the pain. I'm fine with the normal like vision, but no pain, please.
I don't know. Would it be funnier if he was like, it would if in another universe he's like, and Jordy, oh no, you're gonna take it, and Jordy's like, you're gonna give me eyesight. Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And he goes, no more headaches.
No, and Jordy's like, oh,
Oh,
actually, yeah, no,
thanks.
thank you. I'm actually cool with that.
I think I'm, yeah. Oh, can I keep this one?
I'm actually cool with this one. Q, if you take this back, does this stay or?
Q's still in the monk outfit. I don't know, dude. I've stopped paying attention an hour ago.
Never tried this, honestly. You could still have it. I'm not sure. I've never had to revert powers.
Which yeah, and then everybody gets their weird gift almost, and then they're like stopped before he can talk to anyone else. Who else was on the bridge? I think Beverly might have been there.
Beverly was there with
Yeah.
Wesley.
And she didn't really get a wish. What would Beverly would probably like, and your husband is alive again. Or something.
Or Picard is ready to take it to the next step with you.
Yeah, I've made it so Picard will commit.
Yeah, or what have Yars has been to forget her past with the rape gangs or something?
Or like maybe make her home planet safe again or something. Like it's like maybe that's what it is. It's like there's no direct thing for Yar and them.
Yeah, they couldn't think of anything. Like, how terrible it would have been if he looked at Yar and it's like, and finally, a man for you to settle down with.
Oh boy.
like fucking. Then they have to live with the fact that Riker's a sexist dude.
Yeah, but let's say the thing too is like, regardless of Riker having like Q powers or whatever, he still did all of these things like under his own control.
Thinks that this is what they would want. It's weird.
Yeah, like what if you found out your friend thought something so shallow of you that like that you would take an easy shortcut to become like human, for example? I would be a little offended for like the rest of the time I knew that person, unless we had a conversation about it and things changed. But
exactly, I wish that they made more of a point of, is this Riker or is this the Q power that's infected him or something, you know?
Yeah, but we'll never know because as soon as all of this is resolved, Q is sucked into. He's like literally like, it's like some lights or something start floating around him, and he's like, "Oh no, please, I have to do.
Oh, no!
I'm trying to fuck with them." And then Picard's like,
He's
"It looks
really
like you
dramatic about it.
Yeah, Picard's like, "It looks like you have someone to you have to atone to, or like someone you have to answer to." And then he gets sucked into nothingness, and Picard's just like really smug about it.
Yeah, he feels so good about humanity in that moment.
Yeah, honestly, all of this episode leads up to this last like 2 minutes. It's like worth the price of admission. This whole episode's great. It has a bunch of one-liners, but I think the most interesting part is what Riker chooses to do with his powers, because it says a lot about Riker.
Yeah, and I think this kind of leads greatly into the. I feel like because that's the end of the episode. Yeah. I think it's time to start giving thoughts here, because I'm curious to what you think about this episode.
I had a ton of fun. I remember it made me kind of nostalgic for the first time that I watched Star Trek was this episode, because I remember after watching the Q this first real Q episode, because he's in the pilot, but this is where he actually gets to be the Q.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being like so obsessed with this character, and like I remember looking through the wiki and like looking for when every Q episode would show up, and like finding out like I was like so obsessed with it, and so like it was really fun to rewatch this and like get to see all these weird moments again with Riker and stuff, and I don't know, I had a blast. I also thought like the moral question was kind of interesting too, of like what would you do with absolute power? It's kind of executed weird, but as our conversation revealed, I don't think it was as off as we think it might be, you know?
Yeah, but it depends.
Yeah, if I had to rank this one's gonna
get. Yeah, what would you give out of 10?
This could be a 9 out of 10 for me. It's almost a perfect
10,
episode.
wow.
Yeah, good time.
Fair enough. I'm conflicted about this episode. It's very entertaining. It's a very funny episode, but maybe I'm looking at this show wrong. I need to start seeing this as a comedy or something, because for me, it does not sell well on the actual philosophy of the stuff that they try to talk about.
Not yet.
I guess so, because this episode really undersold it and really was kind of messy with the morals and conflict. What I was very excited to see how they handled this and how this would go, and Riker almost immediately falls for every trope of somebody who gets powers, which is a little disappointing. I wish they had tried to make more interest of like Q pushing him and the people on the ship, like being like, no, this is not like you or something, or just make it more obvious how the Q powers worked, because it was just too kind of messy for me to like take it seriously, or for me to even look at Riker and be like, is this guy good or is he an asshole normally?
Yeah,
asshole with powers.
I could see that affecting how you would see him going forward, though, with how kind of careless he is with his gifts.
Yeah. And so I felt kind of weird about it, but I feel like I need to stop taking the show seriously and just look at it as a comedy or a sitcom or something, because I feel like that would make the whole context of this more believable or more, if I just stopped thinking about it so seriously. So I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on the episode. It was a fun watch though, so I'd probably give it a 8 out of 10. I love Q.
It makes me curious to see what you think of some of these later episodes too, where the show starts to kind of get its voice. Because I think it's interesting because this episode is like a very like funny episode, especially in comparison to what happened in the last episode, where it's oh, this like guy whose son was murdered is like having this crisis and he wants to kill Picard and all this stuff, and then it's just like, oh, here's a silly episode where Worf gets to maybe have sex, and oh, look at this, oh, Geordi can see, and oh, pigmen with musket lasers.
It's like I can never tell if the show finds what it's showing funny, or if all the comedy of this show is purely just how absurd all this is.
Yeah, and
And that's
also,
kind of the weird thing about the show for me. It's like, is this funny because it's also weird, or does the show know this is funny?
yeah, especially with the things they choose to do with their more serious characters like Worf, where Worf is supposed to be
Yeah.
this warrior elite, and he's like skipping around and dodging stuff. I don't know. He has like all these silly little lines.
Well, he's very played for comedy. Like,
Yeah,
it's the fact that he is such a straight man or so serious and this warrior, and they have him doing all this goofy stuff.
and you know what
But
it
is like
is?
him running around on the planet supposed to be like, oh, he's a fearless warrior, or is the show like, isn't this funny? He's just running around like a weirdo.
Well, it's like it's kind of interesting too. We'll probably end up talking about this in detail in later episodes, but there's sort of an inherent problem with Worf, and you see it a lot in these early episodes where they talk about him being a warrior a lot and how he likes to fight. But every time he gets to a fight, he lasts about 2 seconds before passing out. But because it's supposed to establish, oh, the thing we're fighting is really strong. But if you do that every
Yeah,
episode, it just makes him look like a total bitch.
he looks like a total dweeb.
Yeah, he's just like, I want to fight, and then he dies.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's kind of what it is about the show, is that they have a lot of ideas, or like there's uses for these specific characters. There's a certain idea of what they want to do with the character, but they do it so weirdly,
Yeah.
and it's so awkward. And I'm sure that's why the show gets better later on, because they're being forced to move them and expand them upon the original roles that they gave these characters. It's just kind of funny how one-dimensional these characters are at the start.
It's interesting you point that out because I always think about how they really obsess about Jordy's blindness in these early episodes. The writers are obsessed with it because they're like treating it like Jordy is being tormented by the fact he can't like see with his own two eyes, I guess. But it's like it doesn't seem to really bother him that much, or
Hmm.
like really affect his life. Like he's pretty like he's an exceptional member of the crew and stuff, and it's like he gets by just fine with his visor. And then like every opportunity they get, he's like he has a little moment about it, which is fine. He can talk about it and stuff, but it's like it happens like 4 or 5 times where he just either gets his sight back or like laments about it in like a way that I don't know doesn't make a lot of sense to his character.
It's very one. It's very one-dimensional. It's like, I get what they're going for. They do an all right job at the start, being like, oh yeah, it's a thing that internally he's a
Mhm.
bit torn up a little bit. Like, how could you not? Always kind of feeling, and that's the thing with like disabled people in general, is that you live with that life, and sure, it may not bother you to some degree, but it's not like it doesn't get brought up at all.
Yeah,
So it's interesting that they deal with it at the start, but then they kind of keep hammering at that.
yeah,
It's
it's the
like, okay,
same thing. It's never like, oh, I've kind of, it's all I know, like it would be interesting, but it's like every time it's like, and also they make it seem like he's living in some weird, I don't know, like, because when he looks at Yar and he's like, "You're as beautiful as I imagine," he's like, is there not a way to just set his visor to normal mode, where it's just cameras being sent? Like, why is it always heat vision and shit? Like,
I don't know. It's so weird. They have that character there to be like the disabled character so that they can do stories with it, but they're just not capable enough to write it, or they don't have an actual disabled person there to give insight to it of what they think they should do with that character.
honestly, that's sort of a Star Trek staple in some of these episodes.
Which is so weird to me. Yeah. There's a lot of potential in Star Trek, but it seems to be shot in the foot by the fact that it's written by a bunch of, at least from what it seems to me, not very experienced old dudes.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's also interesting too, because like there are like, I mean, the person that comes to my mind is DC Fontana, which is a very infamous Star Trek writer. She's written a lot of great episodes, and she had to use like a fake name basically so that people would actually take her writing seriously. But it's interesting how like the politics of the men on specifically like Gene Roddenberry and like his weird like ego pushed people like her out of the writer's room. And you get a lot of weird points of view that don't make a lot of sense in especially when you're talking about like writing minority characters in any way.
Yeah, which is weird. And maybe that's my big problem about the show, is that I feel like for a show that's so adamant and like one of the biggest points is about human morality and Federation and space and all that, you would have to have the characters have a pretty set or strict set of morals, at least somewhat. But they seem very, to quote Picard, flim-flam in a lot of the episodes, where it just kind of seems like it can be changed easily by one thing. And
Honestly,
that's what is so weird to me.
The more you talk about like wanting to see, like, I don't know, every time we have one of these conversations, I think to myself, oh, but DS9 nails it.
I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see how it handles it.
Yeah, I think it's the natural evolution of what this show is trying to do.
We'll see.
But yeah, I don't want to. I'm trying not to hype it up and burn it out, but it's cool. Yeah, I think that's. Did you rank it, by the way? Give it a number.
Yeah, I think I gave it 8 out of 10.
Well,
all right, well, I think the last thing to do is to cue up that music. Cue, get it?
Cue the music.
Cue up the music.
Cue up that music.
And to whip out your phasers. What'd you say? You cut out.
The outro music's doing that thing again. What the fuck?
Uh-oh.
All right, guys.
Imagine it's playing.
Imagine it's playing. We're gonna set this one up for next week, everybody. I'm gonna edit this one down.
It's probably playing right now. And grab those phasers.
Grab your oh, well, fuck. Okay, I got my phaser. What do we do next?
All right, my phaser's here. Okay, now you see the little button on the side?
Yeah.
Now set that to goodbye. And aim and fire.